What was the reasoning behind your decision to leave IIT Recruit? What do you think you gained from taking that path? What do you think you lost?
We were fighting fires every day. I could see a lot of things that could be solved by design rather than by patching it up on the field.
I'm gonna butcher the name. It was the
My journey into design in that era was pretty fascinating because we started from scratch and we started building new things.
yeah, that process of just deciding to stay or go. I mean, what's your thought process when you're thinking to do something like that?
One of the things that's great about companies like SpaceX, SpaceX probably started this in a big way.
You have no aerospace experience whatsoever, but you're now working at, one of the leading aerospace companies in the world.
Yeah, and that's a good question.
We're 90 away from our first major milestone of 100 subscribers. If you like this content, find it helpful, and we'll love to support it. Hitting that subscribe button will do just that. If you do, I promise I'll get better, find great guests, and of course, listen to your feedback. Now behind the line. All right. So, Sanjeev, you have over 30,000 followers on LinkedIn. So you're pretty well known. But for the people who might not know you, could you, in 1 to 2 sentences, just give a brief who you are, where you're from, and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, sure. I'm a mechanical engineer. Started my career in India, in the Indian railroads, and then came to the US for further studies. Stuck around here after the master's in mechanical and worked in the hard disk drive industry, of course, Seagate
Mm,
Technology for about 10 years, or 9.5 years.
right.
And then came and worked here in Los Angeles, where I'm right now in SpaceX for about 5.5 years. And in between, I left there then at 2018, like we were saying, and went to Silicon Valley to work for a drone delivery company that did
Mm,
medical drone delivery. Uh, we worked there for 3.5 years, and now I'm back in SpaceX. So mainly my career has been aerospace, mechanical, and transportation. Yeah.
aerospace, mechanical, transportation. That's great. I hope a lot of people who are trying to get into aerospace will watch this. So hopefully your insights will be helpful for them. So let's start at the beginning. So your educational path was somewhat unconventional. you you started at, IIT Rookery. I'm not sure if I'm
Rookie,
pronouncing
yeah,
that right.
yeah.
Rookie, yeah. So that's, one of India's, greatest engineering schools, but you left for SERA Academy, which is, it was a pretty good gig. Doing that program guaranteed you
Yeah.
both a mechanical engineering degree and a job at the end of it. So that was a pretty good deal. My question is, what was the reasoning behind your decision to leave IIT Recruit? Do you still stand by it? What do you think you gained from taking that path? And what do you think you lost, if anything?
Yeah, I mean, in retrospect, we can always, you know, look back and see why we made the decision and kind of pick the reasons apart and do a what if. But I really
Right.
don't dwell on that much. I can just tell
Mm-hmm.
you my thought process back then. Back then, I think when I was graduating, India was just crawling out of socialist kind of a, economical setup. So the government owned mostly every heavy engineering and light engineering company. And if you wanted to be an engineer with, sights set on big things, then you probably wanted to work for the government. That was kind of the state of affairs back then.
Mm-hmm.
And this academy for railroads that India had is very similar to. I was very recently in Annapolis in the Naval Academy over here, over there. It's very
Mm-hmm.
similarly structured to that. Like you get in, and then it's stipend is given to you for tuition free, and then you're trained. And then when you get educated, you're bound to serve for a few years, and that is kind of the but guaranteed a job too, and guaranteed to work on things that you already know beforehand. So
Mm-hmm.
that was the draw back then, is to be able to be able to do heavy engineering things in railroads. That's why I left the rookie setup and joined this
Okay.
academy.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds good. Uh,
Was the Rookery Academy, was it like, because you got a mechanical engineering degree
Yeah.
through the end of that, was it like a typical, like the
No,
conventional path? Was
it
it?
wasn't a typical mechanical engineering degree. So the academy there in railroads is set up to include both theory and practice. So we
Mm,
used to be tied to a workshop, a railroad workshop, and we had a lot of hands-on. I recall part of the training was actually doing welding and casting, fun things that
okay.
mechanical engineering have to do. But I
Super
have
cool
to read
stuff.
about
Yeah.
usually, but
Yeah.
we had to do all of those things and
Okay.
riveting hot things, and it's almost like you had to learn something and then do it to prove that you've learned it. So I think
Okay.
that was good. Yeah.
No, that's super cool. I think kind of lacking in the system over here. I feel like it might be a little too theoretical based with not enough times hands
Yeah.
on getting your actual, experience through that. So that's cool. That's cool. Do you have a least favorite class? I'm sure it was dynamics.
Yeah, actually, vibrations and dynamics and strength of materials, those are areas that always interested me. Mechanics, statics, and dynamics, basically, right?
Right.
From the beginning, I was more interested in physics and math than in chemistry and biology. So I
Mm.
was inclined towards sciences, but even in the sciences, I was very, very kind of fond of physics more than other sciences. Yeah,
Yeah, physics is a good baseline, helps you understand a lot of
yeah,
things. So that's a good place to start. Okay, so you finished the SCRA Academy, you go to Indian Railways, and that was I'm sure you would agree, a transformative period of time in your
yeah.
engineering career. Yeah, you spent over 11 years working there. Uh, Walk us through some of your learnings from that time. Like what were the first couple of years there like?
Sure.
You
Yeah,
grew
yeah.
from a divisional mechanical engineer to a deputy chief
Yes.
engineer.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and
we'll talk about
I think
that.
so. Going back to the part where I was in the Indian Railroads, I initially joined in operations
Mm,
and railroad operations and freight operations. Essentially, my role was to lead an organization that does all the maintenance and operations of locomotives and wagons and coaches for passenger and freight. Uh, and what I kind of learned there was that we were fighting fires every day in terms of keeping things running on time and on schedule and making assets available and stuff like that. That was our role.
mm,
But inherently, I could see a lot of things that could be solved by design rather than by patching it up on the field.
okay.
And so when you operate in a very large transportation network, and that is true, it is true for any road, rail, or marine or airline organization, you have to do a lot of operational maintenance engineering, but a lot of that, if it's well designed, well planned from the onset, the
Mm,
reliability that is built into the system kind of eliminates a lot of that work. And if reliability is not built into design, then it actually calls for a lot of these daily, monthly, weekly kind of checks and fixes. And that's what I
okay.
realized when I was there. And I basically said, maybe it's my time is better spent working on our research and product development that fixes these things fundamentally for the next 30, 40, 50 years rather than just, applying band-aids and fixing things every day. So
Right.
after doing some operations, gaining an appreciation for design and how it affects everyday operations, I went into carriage design in terms of high-speed passenger coaches design, and that's
Right.
where I
You're
kind of
instrumental in building I believe it was called, I'm gonna butcher the name. It was the Swarma
yeah,
Shatabdi
we called it
Express.
the
Yeah.
Swarm Shatabdi. So
Swarma
this was
Shatabdi.
like the first indigenous train that India was building. Before that, believe it or not, this is like I'm speaking in uh, somewhere in 1990s. India got independence in 1947, and for the next 50 years, the Indian railroads and the government was producing a design that they had got through a technology transfer from a Swiss company. And that was the only design that was being manufactured. There was a lot of that going on in the socialist India. There was only two cars that were produced for 50 years, two types of
Wow.
cars. There was only one rail car design that was produced for 50 years. There was like in everything that you went, it was a supply side economy. So there was no innovation, no product development back in those days. It was just like we got this design, just keep making it again and again and again without asking questions.
Okay.
So yeah, my journey into design in that era was pretty fascinating because we started from scratch and we started building new things with new tools because computer aided design was just rolling in back then. Um, yeah, so I learned obviously mostly on the job and built together a team and we produced a variety of new designs. One of them was this indigenous design for that was later on like qualified for 160 kilometers per hour. It's not very fast in today's world, but back then
Back
it was an
then,
achievement.
no. Yeah,
And
that's pretty impressive.
mostly because the track also needs to be high speed if you want to run a high speed service. And the
Okay.
track in India was dual use back then. So you have these, really heavy freight trains running on the track, and the track
And
is not in a
passenger.
shape, not in the
Okay.
fine shape that it needs to be for a really high speed rail coach,
Okay.
passenger coach. So essentially, looking at all the limitations and everything that we were doing, I kind of recollect that we got a lot of satisfaction finishing up that project. And that train ran between Delhi and Amritsar for about 10 years, the
Okay.
prototype train itself. And then India switched gears and brought in new technology again. But that was like a good effort by our team to do something from their own first principles and make something. Yeah.
Exactly. That first principles approach is really important. I'm sure that reasoning from that first principles approach would have solved a lot of those operational issues you were discussing
Yeah.
originally. Um, so how, I don't know if you know the state of uh, Indian Rail now. Do you think it's as a culture more approaching that methodology, or
Yeah,
I
no,
don't
I
know?
think it is. I think I give high marks to that organization, even though I left
Cool.
it, considering everything. But I think they are progressing, even though at a gradual scale. And
Right.
from my experience, both in high tech corporate world in the U.S. as well as in the government back in India, I really don't think that by some magic, private sector is better, more efficient, and public sector is not. It's like in public sector too, you can have islands of efficiency and really excellent performance. And in private sector, you also see a lot of waste and fraud and everything that you talk about that you generally ascribe to public sector that also exists in private sector. The 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 only saving grace in private sector is that companies rise and fall, whereas in public sector, when there are losses, the taxpayers foot the bill.
Just a little bit
So
different.
yeah, that's the only difference. But if you're working in one of these organizations, I don't think just by declaring that you work in private sector or public sector, you're declaring that you're more efficient or not. That's my point.
Mm, okay. Sounds good. So now, are you familiar with it's a song. It goes should I stay or should I go? Have you heard of
Yes,
it? Should I stay or should I go?
right.
Yes. I feel like you're well, the next chapter of your life, and I mean even that original chapter of your life, it kind of
Yeah.
follows that should I stay or should I go mentality, right? So you're at Indian Railways and now you have to decide should I stay here or do I go to America, right? And eventually you do decide to go to America where you get your master's in mechanical engineering and another master's. and management of technology. And I think during that time, yeah, you were working at Seagate, which was doing great hard disk drive
Yeah.
stuff. But then again, solid state drives started coming out. So then you had to ask yourself again, do I stay working on hard disk drives, or do I go to do something else? And eventually you do go and do something else. So yeah, that process of just deciding to stay or go. I mean, what's your thought process when you're
Yeah,
thinking to do
that's a
something like
great
that?
question, I think. And the way I look at, first of all, the way the way I think I would look at or advise people to look at careers is make a goal for yourself, and the goal should not be very narrow or very particular. The goal
Mm,
should be kind of broad in what you really want to do and what would be meaningful to you in life. And for example, my goal is to work on infrastructure technologies and take them to the next level. And
okay.
in that way, as an engineer, I can help a wide swath of humanity, and which is why I've kind of chosen not to work on weapons. There are certain areas that I've chosen to step away from and
Right.
not look at. And all of my life, wherever I've worked, I would classify those technologies as infrastructural layer, like whether it's railroads or it's space transportation
Mm,
or it's computer hard drives or data storage or it's drone delivery. All of these are kind of infrastructure layers, and when these technologies get to the next level, they actually help humanity in more ways than I can imagine, and that's the satisfaction I would get as an engineer working in the development of these areas.
gotcha.
So that was my goal, and then how do I make transitions? It is hard to make a career transition from one industry to the other as a functioning engineer. I can tell you that because a mechanical engineers especially are work on specifics of things if they are not abstracted away by like the software layer. So if you're a
Right.
software engineer, you can migrate between industries with very with total ease because everything is abstracted. Whether you work at Walmart or you work at SpaceX or you work at Boeing, in the end, if you're doing inventory control, it's all the same systems. They have different quality standards. There are different standards, of course, industry-wise, but by and large, it's all abstracted. Whereas in mechanical, whether you work on, small scale micro machined parts, or you work on large scale engineering, or you work on, materials, it's very different from one domain to the other. And so it's painful. So then why do it? The reason why I've taken my transitions is I basically look at what's the best. So I basically stay along long enough. I will not make too many transitions. It's not when I make the transition.
So
It's
not
not
job
for
hopping. No.
yeah. It's
Okay.
not for job hopping to get the next increment or the next pay
Right.
raise and a title. It's mainly because I've done my bit in the project and I feel that it's it's reached a level where I targeted it to reach in that while. And
Mm,
then when I look around, I say, what's the biggest impact I could have now in this?
okay.
And obviously, I want to keep remain employed. So I'm not going to be waiting around for the industry to collapse around me and be the
Right.
last guard standing there.
No.
I
Got to
can
be smart.
yeah yeah, and that's one of the learnings I got from doing management of technology. I can actually exercise those skills and see what's going to happen in the next 5 6 years, likely to happen, and make my calls. So the transitions that I make are basically at a very logical conclusion of a current project I'm doing, and then I kind of look for the next project and the next big thing that I can make an impact on. So those are the kind of decisions that kind of go behind my transitions, and they're always painful, but as long
Mm,
as you're a lifelong learner, you can deal with those. Yeah.
right. And it's underlined by, having that, big goal vision that you mentioned
Yeah.
earlier.
Yeah.
That makes it easier.
Yeah.
Right,
So
for
it's all
sure.
accumulative. Like in my view, just getting a little philosophical here, but if you, uh, it's not just about uh, you know gaining the maximum. Uh, we talk about a lot about being in the moment, and that's all great. You have to be
Right.
actually happy with yourself in that moment. But there's a bigger, deeper satisfaction in an accumulated happiness that you get, or accumulated satisfaction that you get out of looking back at your career path, looking back at your choices, looking back at what you've done.
Mhm.
And that is what you should try to maximize. Once you know yourself, once you know to what truly what is that you're chasing or want to do, and leave a mark on, and then you look back and say, yeah, I did this and this year and this and this year and this and that year, and that all makes sense. So essentially, make choices that will lead you further along on your goal. Be
Mhm.
strategic, not tactical, and those are the kind of guidelines I kind of imply, I use and kind of advise people to use.
Thank you. Those are some pretty good guidelines. So now, following those guidelines, you decide that it's time for another change, and you make the leap to SpaceX. And for those, following at this point in time, like you have no aerospace experience whatsoever, but you're now working at one of the leading aerospace companies in the world, and you're surrounded by some of the most brilliant people in the world. This was early days when they were starting out, but I'm sure that was still the case back then. Uh, and I feel like most people in your situation would have like severe imposter syndrome, but you said on your Reddit AMA that you were unafraid to be the most ignorant person in the room, and that helped you learn a lot, I guess. But how did you overcome that imposter syndrome? And then before you answer that, because now you're now principal engineer, so I know you somehow figured out a way. So how did you then learn how to learn quickly? Because one of the famous parts about the SpaceX mythos, Elon Musk self-taught himself rocketry, right? And I feel like that appeals to a lot of people who are, especially those that aren't taking the traditional path into the industry like yourself. So how did you also, go about, teaching yourself rocketry and rocket science in such a way that you had a deep theoretical understanding, but also, extensive practical, real world hands-on experience?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I think when I was looking around after doing 10 years in Seagate technology, and
Right.
I could actually foresee that the hard drives are going to go out of fashion or expand less than everyone in the company was telling us how we were just going to expand into like selling 1 billion hard drives a year or something like that. Uh, I was looking to get out of the industry. First of all, I applied to companies around in California, and I did not expect a call back from SpaceX, but they did. And back then, and still, companies like SpaceX now uh, truly believe that they hire for talent, potential, and drive rather than X a number of years of experience. So here
Mm,
I am now in SpaceX, and I'm working on this project. The first project that I was assigned to was getting the first stage back and reusing it. So that was like a project which like a core team kind of was formed. And
right.
I do not know anything about aerospace. So what do you do in such a circumstance? Well, you have to be a self-learner, and so I picked up from my colleagues and peers and went back to textbooks. And that's one of the things that I've seen in experienced professionals stop doing
Mm,
is brushing up their fundamentals. There's no shame in just going up and picking up your old engineering textbooks and start reading them again.
okay.
So basically, through one way or the other, I kind of just taught myself what was going on. And one of the things that's great about companies like SpaceX, and SpaceX probably started this in a big way, is that we don't have positions like system engineers. Um,
Mm,
every engineer is supposed to know where the inputs are coming from and outputs are going to. Every analysis person, every manufacturing. So essentially, you need to
interesting.
know a layer of expertise that surrounds your work, and that
Mm,
you got to learn that by yourself. Even if you're not a specialist in that, you got to learn
right.
at least the first layer of what you're dealing with. And in that
Okay.
process, I think you learn a lot of where your work fits in and what you're expected to do. There are traditional organizational setups where every person is kind of their own discipline, subject matter expert, and then you have a systems engineer that kind of integrates them all.
Mm,
As opposed to that, I think the approach in these new companies is to have every person, the subject matter expert, be their own systems engineer as well. And in that process,
okay.
you have to learn. And my
Everything
method of
else.
learning is just uh, asking more questions, going through what your colleagues are doing, and then going back to textbooks. Yeah.
All right. Good. And as you mentioned, yeah, you played a key role in helping develop the Falcon 9. It's a workhorse rocket now. And now you're currently developing, Starship, another more powerful rocket. Uh, two key values that I see again and again are ownership and first principles thinking. So can you just briefly explain why those are important and how you use them to make the contributions that you made?
Yeah, so in very broadly speaking, in every engineering organization, I think I was
Yeah.
also in Silicon Valley for doing the drone delivery thing,
Right.
and there too I put together a team, and we were the first ones to get FAA, Federal Aviation Authority certification for a small UAS, beating out companies like Google and Amazon, huge companies. And the reason and the way that you approach these problems when you're faced with it is, first of all, you mentioned ownership, and that's very important in every team member, not just like the manager or the manager's manager. In every
Mm,
team member, you should see that they own something. So if you walk into a room and you see 100 objects, you can point to any one object, and uh, you will know that who is responsible for that and why is that there, and if something happens to that, who is going to step up and fix it.
right.
So similar to that, I think in an engineering project, uh, everyone has has to take ownership of their areas and fill the gaps even.
Mm,
And if you find in an engineering project everyone there's a failure but no one feels responsible, then that's a problem. Right? So the first
gotcha.
thing that the engineering team needs to do is to develop a sense of ownership, and then you need to trust your colleagues, obviously. So obviously, we have this system of pilot, co-pilot, and we keep checking each other's work. But that's not to say that everyone's doing everyone else's work. Everyone's focused on their work, and they trust their colleagues to do their work. So that's ownership. And then in terms of first principles, when you're doing something extremely new, uh, you have an advantage and you have a disadvantage. The advantage that you have is that no one's done it before. So
Mm,
in a way, no one is a specialist on that. And when there's no field of specialization that exists, then you start with first principles and say, okay, by physics, if I do this, what do I think is going to happen? And then you kind of go from there and model it all the way. And the disadvantage, of course, is that if there's no precedent, then you're starting from zero, and you have to, craft your own path. The advantage is that when you're starting from zero, everybody is on the same plane. So someone who comes up, a company or competitor that comes up with 20 years of experience or 50 years of experience is also on the same starting block as you are.
mm,
So in a new area, everyone starts out equal, and in a new area, first principles matter more than in other areas. For example, in hard drives, I can tell you in hard drives, so the basic form factor of a mechanical hard drive started off in 1960s, 70s,
mm,
and it's been a very converging kind of a problem, convergent evolution to the present hard drive, but the basic form factor hasn't changed. So today, it's very difficult for a new company to break into the mechanical, like hard drive world and come up with a brand new product that does something fantastic. They
Right.
have to be confined to the format of the product.
Everything. Okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of just set in stone. But then if you come in with a kind of a breakthrough the data storage technology, maybe it's not even solid state, maybe it's quantum, electron based or whatever it is, then you're starting from scratch, and then you can disrupt. But in an established industry, making making product evolution, you have to understand the entire um, product path and evolution, and then make an improvement. And so in problems that are blue sky problems, as I call them, just starting out on a white paper, fundamentals are important, and then it's also good for you because everyone is on the same page.
If you'd like to ask a question to a future guest on the show, make sure to like and subscribe as well as follow me on LinkedIn. There, you can comment your questions once I announce the next guest.
I'm sure you get questions like this a lot. For like internationals wanting to work in aerospace, obviously there are ITAR restrictions. How uh, can you increase your chances of getting in? Did doing your master's or getting work here help? Can you provide any insight into like the current landscape? Things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of tough with the ITAR requirements. Obviously, you need to be a US permanent resident.
Right.
In my case, I worked in hard drives for during those years where I was on temporary, technical visa and then on green card, and finally joined a company like SpaceX, which was governed by ITAR when I was a green card holder, and then
Mm,
eventually got my citizenship. So I think that is a hard requirement, and not no way of getting around to companies that are dealing with dual technology in aerospace. But not all technology in aerospace is dual use. For example, if you're an international student, you could work in commercial grade aerospace. You could work in the new emerging advanced aerospace, as people call it, the drones and the commercial drones
mm,
and commercial eVTOLs. And you could work if you're more focused on space aspects of it. You could work on space technologies that are not dual use. For example, working on satellites or working on equipment that goes into testing of aerospace. So not everything is kind of just predictive technology. There
okay.
are ways of getting started, and then once you are there and you eventually get your US residency, then you can kind of switch over to a more core aerospace.
Aerospace
Yeah,
career.
yeah.
Okay. And then another thing, AI is like the hot topic right now. It's exploding everywhere. What are your thoughts on that? How do you see it changing the aerospace industry? And how real is the threat of, even jobs like, yours and ours, how real is the threat of that being automated? And is that a bad thing?
No, I think I've been around for a very long time now. So uh,
Right.
everywhere I've seen technology come in, it displaces human jobs, and for a time being, it is painful.
Mm,
The big question in everyone's mind, though, is AI just a tool, just like computers were once,
right.
uh, or is it a replacement of a human? And where I stand today, and probably will forever, like I'm pretty hard bound to some of the fundamentals that I've kind of thought in my mind.
Right.
I think it's a tool. It's not a replacement.
Okay.
So AI, from what I can foresee, will automate a lot of mundane tasks,
Right.
and will probably help us explore more of the possibilities from an existing problem set. But it's not going to replace the creativity, imagination, the emotions, the motivation that humans bring to an organization. And those are the things, the insights those are the things that actually make the world move forward. I don't see an
Mm,
AI coming up like Newton did with the law of gravity. I don't see an AI coming up with an insight that Einstein had, that the speed of
no,
sound is the final thing, and time dilation
no,
and mass dilation can occur. So these are the
no.
things that are human insights, and these are born more from our inbuilt inherent curiosity that
Right,
life gives us, and intelligence and consciousness. And I don't think AI is going there. AI is essentially, I look at it as a tool that just goes through the kaleidoscope of possibilities and comes up with great things, but it needs to have
right.
the things built into it, or exposed. It needs to be exposed to those things
Okay.
beforehand.
And
Yeah,
only we can provide that exposure.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Now, if your goal was to work in aerospace and you're a 20-year-old college student, or let's say you're a 35-year-old and you're a non-engineer, and you want to make a career shift, like what would be your advice to those two people?
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, I didn't start off with a goal to work in aerospace back in India. Like,
Right.
if somebody had even told me that I'd foresee aerospace in the near future, I would have laughed at that. So first of all, going back to my early comment, I think you should actually reflect on what your goals are and make them as broad as possible. So
Mm,
make them as broad as possible that gives you meaning and satisfaction in life, and
okay.
then uh, aim in that direction. And if it takes, 10 years getting there, fine. If it takes 15, that's fine too. Don't be impatient with yourself. If you make a goal that actually satisfies you, and if you're directionally correct, the journey is worth reaching the destination too. So if you're an international student and you really, are passionate about space, aerospace, like I said, work in increments and small steps. And even if you have to do things around that a subject, but not in the main domain, it's
Mm.
fine. As long as you're leading up to that, you should be satisfied. Yeah.
Now, if someone takes just one thing away from this interview, what do you want it to be?
Yeah. So I think it's like everyone wants to change the world, but
Right.
you can change the world, or you can make an impact and feel satisfied that you've done that by being excellent at your job, and uh, by just doing your job better, right? You don't
Right.
need to you don't need to actually go there, be an activist, and it's fine if you do, but I think if everyone around the world, we have a lot of educated people, you have a lot of talented people, you have a lot of people who are wanting to construct a new world. And if everyone just kept improving their own skills and kept, pushing more the boundaries, then we'd be in a much better place. And in whatever you're doing, in whatever you're pursuing, pursue excellence, pursue your meaningful goal, and
Mm.
keep pushing. And I think in the end, you'll find more satisfaction with that. And and don't get distracted by the flavor of the week or the flavor of the year. So
Right.
one day it could be video games, the next day it could be AI, the third day it could be something else. uh, you know uh, just keep focus on a very long strategic path that you're on.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
good. And then finally, just 30 rapid fire questions. You ready?
Okay.
So here we go. So do you think there are room for more launch providers? Yes, no?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. When do you think asteroid mining will be feasible? Is that something we could achieve soon or no?
Asteroid mining, you said?
Asteroid mining, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it is feasible. I think within the next maybe 20 years, we might start doing that.
Interesting. All right. What type of non-launch provider space startups would you like to see more of? I think, like SpaceX Relativity, these guys get all the hype, but, you know,
Yeah. So I actually believe that. launch providing is essentially just like trucking service, a space trucking service, right?
Mm,
And I think we need to start thinking more about what do we do when we get there in terms of
okay.
having a permanent settlement on Moon or Mars or wherever, and or in the lower Earth orbit, like having orbiting factories and stuff like that.
Right.
So we got to devote more time to the impact space has or radiation has on humans and stuff like that. So there needs to be more research on what are you going to do when you get the capacity to launch a whole, for cheap, a whole bunch of matter up in space. What are you going to
Right.
do with this? Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Uh, what are your thoughts on ISRO?
Oh, they're doing great.
Really good
They're
stuff.
actually, showing what limited resources with limited resources and determination what they can do. So they're actually making new path for even developed countries. So they're doing great.
Do you have a favorite SpaceX rocket? Falcon 9, Falcon
Well,
Heavy, Starship,
Falcon Heavy, I would say. Yeah.
Falcon Heavy. Yeah, no, I think that's still my favorite one. It's so cool. What's one thing people still in school should take advantage of?
Well, we spoke of AI. I think I believe AI is going to be a really great tool for learning
Right.
in the future, and not to like people always complain that with GPS, when GPS came in, people stopped looking at or trusting their own self for directions and developing a mental model of the city around them.
Mm,
So don't be over reliant on AI. Use AI to actually make you better. So
got you.
that, yeah.
Makes sense. Do you have a big was some do you have a big inspiration? Or is there like a hero of yours? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I have several heroes in several fields, and going back to
Uh-huh.
India and international as well.
Right.
I really like on a human scale. I really admired Gandhi and then Mandela and people like them
Right.
who, in spite of having suffered a great deal, they did not really have malice or any indignation. They actually wanted to just improve the world regardless. So yeah.
Yeah. It's great. Do you have a favorite memory from Indian Railways?
Several, yeah. So Indian Railways taught me a lot in terms of grit and hard work. I recall I was talking to a colleague yesterday. There was like a huge accident between Delhi and Calcutta, which set the
Oh,
entire rail connection down for 17 days. There was a tanker gasoline tanker train that crashed with a food grain train, and I was kind of responsible for uh, risk recovery efforts. So I had to camp in the middle of nowhere for 17 days, and it
wow.
was extremely hard work. But through that, I could see that how everyone around me in the railroads in my peer group, they worked non-stop, and I was kind of sleeping 4 hours a day, but there were people who were working almost continuously. So it gives you a lot of
That's
respect and perspective on how people kind of step up to the occasion when there is a crisis.
dude, that's so wow. That's 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah,
That's okay.
yeah,
Where in the world have you not been but would still like to go?
yeah. I was just thinking, I haven't been to the southern hemisphere. I mean, I think all my
Mm,
journeys have been through India,
wow.
Asia, and Europe and North America. So I would certainly want to
Somewhere down there.
be in Africa and South America a little bit more. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Would you say you're more of an introvert or extrovert?
I'm more of an introvert. Yeah,
More of an introvert. Yeah, fellow
yeah,
engineer.
yeah.
uh, do you have a hidden talent? I wonder.
Uh, I don't know if it's a hidden talent. I think one is I think I love music, so
Right. Okay.
appreciating good music is a talent in my view as well.
Okay.
So that is one of my passions, and then uh, one of my secret abilities is to get along very well with the kids and youngsters. So so that's something that I connect with. Yeah.
No, that's cool. Um, Moon base or Mars colony? Which do you think is cooler?
Well, moon base is actually pretty doable, and Mars
Yeah,
colony is obviously, meets a very, very large, strategic goal.
right.
But moon base would be a first step. I think that is
Moon
cooler for
base.
now. Yeah,
Yeah, I think we could do that pretty soon, actually. So that'd be really
yeah.
nice to see. Do you have like a favorite sci-fi movie? I wonder.
Uh, I love sci-fi movies, and I think one of the movies that I actually loved was The Martian.
Martian,
Um,
of course,
Andrew
of
Weir
course.
wrote that book, and I was actually in one of the talks that he gave to us
Oh wow.
on his
Okay.
thought process. It was fascinating, and I think it was well written and well kind of produced.
Yeah, yeah. I watched that movie as well. Really great. Would you say you're a morning person or a night person?
Oh, definitely a morning person. I I wake up early, and that's when I kind of my had my neurons going.
Right. Okay. No, definitely a night person, me. But working on the morning shift. Favorite food?
Favorite food is mostly Indian food, I would say.
Anything.
Rice
For
and
sure.
beans,
Makes
so
sense.
sort of staple. Like I'm a vegetarian, yeah.
Okay. And would you rather work in today's space race or the old space race back in the day?
Well, so this is a very great question. I would rather work in the old space race for the USA, I would say, because everything that we do today, if you go back and trace, the historical basis for it, you actually end
Yeah.
up in the 1970s somehow. 1960s and
Really?
70s is when people did not have computers, they did not have supercomputers, but they had great ingenuity. I think you can kind of see
Right.
how they were processing information and making sense of it all and evolving things. Huge, fan of that era.
Right. Yeah. They said that the rocket, the technology we used to get to the moon was like less powerful than our phones, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's what a time. What a time. Any book recommendations? Fiction, nonfiction?
Yeah, one book I kind of recommend to, people who, youngsters basically is go read Malcolm Gladwell's Outliers.
Mm,
That's a great book.
I
It
read that
basically
one.
tells
Yeah.
you all the extraordinary things that you see in extraordinary people, how things kind of evolve and get there. And
Right.
I may not agree with everything that's in the book, but it's a very well written, well researched book, and it's something that you should read.
Yeah, I read that book as well, and also agree. Like there are some things I agree with. I'm like, oh, some other
Yeah,
things, I'm like, I don't know.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
fa- favorite compliment you've ever received?
Uh, Not sure about that. I don't.
Mm,
Yeah, I tend to remember more criticisms than compliments because
criticisms? No.
criticisms you can actually learn from and grow yourself out. Compliments are, you
Right.
probably, get them out of good manners of the person who's talking to you.
That's funny. Well, uh, here's a compliment. I think thank you for like you've been so helpful. And like you share a lot of information. So thank you for that. I really appreciate all of that. A couple more questions. If you could have a dinner with anyone, alive or dead, who would you have that dinner with?
Yeah, that's a great question. Alive or dead?
Yeah.
I'm actually a big fan of Albert Einstein, and this might be kind of cliche, but I would actually like to have an opportunity if I travel back in time to talk to him.
Right.
I'm just
No,
amazed. Like
that's
I read his biography, and I'm just amazed that one person could take such a leap in imagination and advance
like
physics by maybe
what was
50
going
years.
on in his mind. Yeah. E equals
Yeah,
MC squared, general relativity. Uh,
exactly. I mean, we don't really appreciate the big leap that one human mind gave to our understanding of the universe, which is crazy.
right.
Which is crazy.
Okay. What would you want your autobiography to be called
Well, I don't
if you write
think I'll
one?
have an autobiography. I'm just a ordinary engineer who just
In
kept
order
doing their job. So Uh, yeah, I think
No,
just an engineer would be a good top, a good
just an,
just an engineer would be a good title.
uh, okay. The engineer. All right. Last two. You get the opportunity to take Starship to Mars. Do you go or do you stay here?
That's interesting. So I'm actually so I've taken a lot of risks in my life in terms of changing up my life and leaping into new engineering domains and all that. But I'm not a
Right.
very I don't get adrenaline rush out of doing like crazy stuff, and so I stay away
Okay.
from dangerous tasks, kind of just by nature. So I'm not very sure if
Okay.
things looked safe enough, I would obviously want to do that.
Right.
But in the pioneering days, everything's kind of very risky. So may or may not.
Right. Maybe, maybe not. What about just at least, I don't know, going to space, like Virgin Galactic or something,
Oh
or
yeah,
Blue Origin,
yeah,
something like
definitely.
that?
I think that would be the coolest experience, and I think with the way things are going, with more and more new companies coming into this realm of space tourism, I think that
Right.
between like 2 and 3 decades from now, I think we'll probably have a thriving space tourism economy.
That's so happy because one of my dreams is to see the Earth in its entirety with my own eyes. So that would be a dream come true in the coming years. Yeah. And yeah, final question. What's next for Sanjeev? What's what do you have in your future? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, finally, I know for sure that I do not want to like retire and watch TV all my remaining life anytime soon.
Right.
Again, like I said, I mean, as my career kind of has spanned about 30 years or 33 years now, and kind of I'm acknowledging that there is going to be like a um, an end to working full time someday. I want to get into
Right.
things which I can contribute to, and in my remaining time, and make an impact with all the way leading up to the final retirement. And I want to keep working till the very end. So, like I said, I keep my goals very broad. It's
Okay.
not focused at one company, one project, one thing. And if I don't get it, I'll be disappointed. It's not like that. This is my general kind of
Mm,
goal right now is to keep working, keep my mental and physical faculties together, and then keep contributing and work. I would probably pick more near-term projects and goals rather than work in an area that has 3 decades to grow.
okay.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Got you. Oh, and actually, just one more. How do you want to be remembered?
Oh, like I said, I mean, just an engineer is fine with me. I mean, I have I really
Just an
haven't done.
engineer.
Yeah, I have really haven't done anything spectacular. I've just carved my path
Oh,
through life,
don't sell
and
yourself too short now.
yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, Sanjeev, thank you. I appreciate you giving your time so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sydney, for having me, and hope your viewers will benefit from this talk. Thank you.